I like to use chalks as my way of mapping out the picture. There's lots of ways to map out a picture, but what I'm going to do today is just use chalk, because you can erase it or rub it away or whatever, or you can draw over top of it. Because I'm working on black, it's going to be the reverse of white, of course, so I'll go with this shade here. I'm realizing that the picture is portrait style, so I'll have to change how this phone sits. Alright, so finally, to get started, I like to kind of do what's called a gesture. It's kind of like making a stick figure. I'm looking at the cat's head, and it's, you know, like the top of her head is maybe here, so maybe make like a little mark there, and then the bottom of the picture, you know, she's got her paw down here. And looks like the tip of her mouth is somewhere in the middle there. So I'm looking at fractions of the, so like her cheek kind of comes to about that far from the page in reference to like the rest of it, you know. So, and then the other side of her head is maybe that there. And that's probably all screwed up, I don't know, maybe less. The good thing about it is if I get any of this wrong, it's not the end of the world, because I'm just doing my very first layer, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so just her head, just kind of like a circle, you know, and her body is off the screen, so she's got her arm kind of coming down like this, and shoulders kind of sit like that, and then she's got another arm that kind of like goes down almost to the edge of the picture and then scoops over like that. Her back is a little bit higher than her shoulder line and goes down off the screen. She's sort of halfway on someone's leg there. Their leg is like this. It just kind of goes off screen like that. There's more gesture, I suppose, like her head is kind of coming down straight, kind of almost straight, tilted a little bit like that. So, it's like where her eyes are. And this kind of comes down like that. Goes up like that. There's this cool little swoop thing. Like that. So I'm just kind of making some of these some of this gesture lines into like shapes in proportion to everything else. Her eye kind of goes in like that, and she got like her snout shape like that. Okay. And whenever I do this, I really doubt myself a lot. I look at these things, how they start and how they look ridiculous at first, and it makes me want to stop recording and give up. So if you're feeling that way when you do art, you know, you just know that you can remind yourself that there I was doubting myself, and just have faith in the process. Her arm is like a shape like that. And I'm just kind of shaping things up. So like her arm comes down and then it kind of goes forward, and the camera angle is kind of like our kitty had big giant paws. There's that, plus the camera angle is kind of right there. It takes up a lot of footprint right there. Something I like to do is like, she's got stripes on her arms which help to define things. And you can kind of like make lines that represent the form of the arm. So like she's got toes here, little toe beans. You know, I can grid them off like that. Here's all these toe beans and here's the shape they form, right? There's lines that separate them. Then you can make these little lines that here's a toe, and they're like cylinders, right? Okay, and then her hand is like one bigger thing. So there's some more lines. And then she's got some like little claws coming out. Okay. This area over here kind of represents just like her chest, her main area. So it's almost like I could draw lines like that that radiate out from there, like that. And where her elbow comes down, it's kind of a dramatic gesture line. And then she's got like, this is where her chest kind of comes to a peak right there, like a widow's peak type thing, except for on her chest. And right before that is where her paw kind of rounds off and tucks into herself, like she's loafing it. She's kind of hiding it, so you don't see any of her claws and stuff there. And it kind of comes over here like this, and kind of makes a crease in her elbow there, like the inside of her elbow. But you don't really see her arm go up there because it's just part of, like it just kind of, I mean you do a little bit right here in this spot. So I'll probably draw like some curved lines there to represent that part of the arm, and then here I'm going to make some curvy lines like that to represent the kind of cylinder that's going on there. Okay. Looking okay so far. This isn't really the best setup. Honestly, it's just kind of frustrating. I really want to get some kind of tripod thing. There we go. Now, her head is not straight on. It's like kind of pointed that way, so I need to emphasize that. Like this line. And then her forehead, one of the ways I can kind of sort of express how her forehead comes down at that angle is, you know, I can kind of make a shape like that, which maybe like some vertical, or I mean horizontal lines like that, that shape her head, right? And then over here we've got some kind of a plane, which is like, when I say a plane, I'm referring to how the surface of something lays, like wherever there's a semi-flat surface, you can call that a plane. It's got a plane right here too. And these are all sort of like still round, but they're not perfectly round. They sort of suck in a little bit, like that. And kind of like that, you know. And she's got these cute little like makeup lines where they like a line or something where they outline her bottom of her eyes and even the top of her eyes. And that part there too. I think I just want to put a few little bits of hair there to express the fluffiness, because otherwise it just seems stylized. Like if I just draw a line like that, it's just sort of doesn't fit. But if I draw the line too far out, then it looks like she has giant ears. So I'm just doing these hair marks to kind of express that they occupy room, but they're not a straight line or a hard line. And I'm just gonna draw some eyeballs in there because she's creeping me out with her blank eyes. And see, isn't that amazing how that gave her some life? And I'm gonna kind of put a little snout in there with her little chin, and kind of turn that circle into a bit of a triangle. It's amazing how just those little things like that gave her form more so than, you know, if you were starting to wonder, like, is this going to look right? And there it goes. Now it's better, you know. I mean, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting there, and you can start to see form coming. Her like makeup lines there, they drop down at a bit of an angle, peak thing, and then they come up like that. And then that one does it too, like that. And that. So you got some whiskers that go down like that. Some that come out like that. So we're just doing kind of an impressionist view of it. So like impressionism is kind of like where you're capturing like the essence of something without getting too deep into the weeds of detail. And for me, that's how I best can map out a picture. It's how I taught myself to map things, is by doing it as roughly as I can. I used to get all caught up in the details too quickly, and it would distort the shape of things. So I learned that the best thing I can do is to rough it out, and even it helps to get a piece of, you know, if you're painting, you can get a bit of newspaper or something and roll it up into a wad like that thick, and, you know, just use that to shape and use that to paint with. And here I'm using chalk in layers, and I can do that now because I've gotten better at it. But, you know, you don't have to, the best thing is to use something that isn't fine tipped. Get something that is broad, because that will force you to focus on the bigger picture. Okay, so, and I have to remember to do things backwards because I'm working with black. But so like up here, I want to differentiate where she's got like a dark part, and it's like the upper skin part of her ear, and then down here is the hair, and it's bright. So I'm filling in the bright parts, as opposed to like if you have a pencil or charcoal or something like that, maybe you're just going to focus on the darker parts, the shadows. And see, you can even do that. You can grab the side of the chalk or whatever and do it like that. Right now, we're not focused on detail. Very important. Now, she has a lot of stripes, and they're really kind of cool looking stripes. So I'm going to do some lines like that to go with the flow of the stripes in her patterns and stuff. And they go down into her nose area a little bit, but not, they stop about there and they don't continue. And then the top of her nose is lighter than her actual nose. Okay. She's got some stripes. Go this way. Stripes there. All this is a lot of white color, so can kind of put that there. There's some cool little whiskers coming up like that, some like that, some that come out like that. Okay. Put some lines over here to kind of represent that there isn't like a solid line, that the sort of edge there makes up some fuzzy fur. And then down here it kind of goes this direction. And some of this stuff here is like that. And then she's got stripes that go this way, but the fur goes in this direction, so it's kind of interesting. That should be fun to actually put down later, refine later. Okay, so that's the first layer. I'm going to stop there because I have to take a break. I have to go lay down a little bit because my back hurts. But we will continue later.